Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Josh Hine, and this is the Pitchless Selling Podcast. It's the podcast where we talk about sales, business, and a little bit of personal motivation as well. We're on a mission to change people's lives personally and professionally, and we are so glad you found us today. So thank you so much for being here, whether you're watching this podcast online or you're just listening to it someplace. We're so glad you're here. Today, I want to have an impact for you. My goal is to have you leave listening to this or watching this podcast fired up to take on the world and to tackle your next day, tackle your next sales call, your next sales conversation. The reason I'm so fired up, the reason I'm so excited for today, well, the topic we're talking about today is conviction and passion. Selling with conviction, okay? This is something that for whatever reason, it's not talked about. It's not a highly trained skill, unless, of course, you're in the Pitchless Selling Training Program, in which case it is something we train a lot on. But generally speaking, in the industry, not a lot of people talk about conviction and passion. And so whether you sell B2B or whether you sell B2C, this is something that if you've got this skill, if it's something you're really good at, and you can really do genuinely, you're going to go a long way, and it will really help you sell more. So, like I said, thank you so much for being here today. This topic should be one that you can implement right away. I'm going to give you some tips and tricks, some things that you can start doing right away on your next sales conversation. So, with that said, let's start a little bit high level. Let's talk about what I mean with this whole concept of selling with conviction or selling with passion. So, I think that far too often, salespeople in general, especially newer salespeople, they come in with this maybe overconfidence, not newer people, more seasoned salespeople. They come into their conversations with this sort of overconfidence or this air to them, or this sort of attitude like, hey, I already know how this is going to go. You're going to buy this. I've got something that you need. I got something that you're going to want. I'm going to sell this to you, right? And they come in and it's bull in China shop. They don't listen. Overconfident, right? Borderline's arrogance, borderline's cockiness. And some of that just comes from the experience. It's not necessarily that that these people are bad people, or that maybe even that's how they're like in real life, right? It's just that they have this maybe confidence, or they've done it so much, or they're a seasoned salesperson, and so they're really confident, and it comes across, unfortunately, it comes across as arrogance or cockiness. And so, number one, you've got to avoid that. So everything I'm talking about today, everything I go through with you today, I want you to keep that in mind, okay? That's sort of like the first thing to think about as you go through this, and it's going to take some practice. The confidence and the passion, the selling with conviction that I'm going to teach you about today, that I'm going to talk about today, you've got to just keep in mind that there is such a thing as too much, okay? And so practice this. Practice some of these tips that I give you today. The other thing is, you don't want to come across as the overeager salesperson, all right? And this is what I was referring to earlier when I had mentioned that the newer salesperson often comes across this way. So newer salespeople, or frankly, some salespeople who just aren't doing very well, come across as overeager, or they come across as pushy, or even desperate in some ways. And so, again, whether or not that's they're trying to sell with conviction or trying to sell with passion, they're coming across as, again, just really pushy or desperate. And prospects feel that, right? So a prospect, even if, and I've seen this firsthand on calls, I've literally been doing a live coaching with someone on a sales call when they were talking to the prospect, and I knew that this salesperson really needed this sale, right? It was a very, well, to be honest, it was the end of the quarter, and this person needed to make this sale to keep their job. I mean, it was a really, really important call. It was a very important conversation. But the problem is the salesperson reeked of desperation, and it was very obvious. You could just, the tone and everything about it, you could just hear that the salesperson was desperate, right? It wasn't coming across as confident and passionate, right? It was more like, hey, please buy this, right? And so that's what we want to avoid, right? We certainly don't want to come across as cocky or arrogant. We don't want to come across as desperate, pushy, those types of things, okay? So keep that in mind as I go through and I talk about the importance of selling with conviction or the importance of selling with passion. There is some good news now. I have some good news for you. All right. So for those of you who maybe you are new, your sales career is relatively young, you're new to sales or you haven't been selling long. Maybe you just started a new job, a new sales job. You've been in sales for a really long time, but maybe you're selling at a new company or you're selling a new product or service, right? Well, maybe if you don't quite have all of those skills developed yet, or you don't have maybe some of the product knowledge or the knowledge about your company or your service, right? You haven't had a lot of conversations with prospects to really know how the best way to present your offering is or how you can drive the most value. Those types of things when you're early on that you're kind of feeling your way through. The good news for you is if you can sell with conviction and you can sell with passion, the way I'm going to, talk about it today, you can make up for a lot of that missing skill, a lot of that missing skill or missing knowledge. So again, keep in mind, you got to be careful with going too far with this or doing too much with this. Okay, but if you can do this, this will make up for a lack of skill or a lack of knowledge. So as you're developing those skills, hopefully with us maybe, as you're developing your skills, you can cover up some of that lack of skill with the conviction and passion. And so let me be clear on what I mean by this first. Let me sort of set the stage, okay? When I talk about selling with conviction or selling with passion, what I'm not talking about is just this sort of false sense of or fake sort of sense of, rah, hooray, this is the best thing in the world and everybody should have it, right? There is some of that to this, but it has to be genuine, okay? And so the flip side of that coin is I know a lot of salespeople, many salespeople are in an industry in which they may not be, overly passionate about. It's not like they got into that job selling that product or selling that service because they just absolutely love roofing, right? Or they just absolutely love software, accounting software or, whatever it is, right? It's okay. If you're not just overly passionate about the actual product or service you're selling, that's okay, right? But what you do need to do is you need to find a way to get passionate, to get that conviction level up about the way your product or service helps people. So the first tip of the day, what I would tell you is find a way to get excited about what your product or service does. All right, so I want you to be genuinely passionate about how your product or service changes people's lives or changes people's business. That's rule number one. Right? So I'll say it one more time in case you happen to be taking notes here. You need to find a way, number one, to be genuinely passionate about the way your product or service changes people's lives or changes people's businesses. All right? If you can be genuinely passionate about that, right? You genuinely want to help people, right? You care about your prospects. It's not just another sale. It's not just another number, right? You really care about learning about your prospects, learning about their situation, finding out how you can help, working your product or solution into their unique circumstance to drive as much value as possible for them so they can't imagine their life without you, right? That's the type of passion and conviction you need to have. And oh, by the way, if you just so happen to be overly passionate about or extremely passionate about the actual thing that you're selling, even better. So like I said, it's not a requirement that you have to love roofs, or if you sell cars, you don't got to be a huge car person or absolutely love cars, but find a way to, get excited about what you're doing for people, right? Don't just get lost in the day-to-day grind of selling another car or selling another this, or I need to make another sale, or I'm trying to hit my quota, right? Don't get caught up in that. Every opportunity, every conversation you have is an opportunity to change someone's life or make their life better or make their business better, right? Imagine a world where because of you, this company is making X more dollars, or this company is able to operate this more efficiently, right? Or maybe they're able to hire a bunch more people. Now all of a sudden, because they met you, because you sold them this product or service, they're providing jobs for people, right? Or maybe your product or service changes someone's life. Maybe if you're selling B2C, you sell something that it's going to make a huge difference for these people, right? So find a way to get passionate, get excited about how what you're selling impacts people's lives or changes their lives or changes their business, all right? So that's number one. Number two is get passionate about actually helping people. So again, rule number one was not about, it doesn't have to be about, absolutely loving the industry you're in, or the product that you're selling, or the service, or anything like that, but focusing on the results that it drives. Okay. Number two is, I want you to get passionate about just helping people in general. Okay? Because if you can switch your brain this way, if you can get out of the sales mode, it's not all just about selling. Look, I'll pump the brakes on that in a second, because I know you got to sell. You want to sell as much as you can. You need to sell as much as you can. Maybe you have sales quotas and stuff like that. I'm not saying that, you need to take it easy or don't worry about selling a bunch. What I'm saying is you'll sell way more if you can shift your focus and not worry about the sales so much and actually get excited about helping people, okay? So switch your mind and take a genuine interest, right? And when I say genuine interest, I mean have a genuine curiosity about every prospect you meet, about every single person you talk to, right? And even if you feel like it's Groundhog Day and you're having the same conversation over and over again because so many of your prospects have the same problems, or you're solving the same problem over and over again, or you're presenting the solution the same way, even if it feels like it's the same thing over and over again to you, remember, it's new to your prospect, right? They don't talk to you every day. They probably don't talk about your product or service every day. They probably don't talk about the problems that they're having that you're trying to solve every day. Right? So get excited about the every conversation you have is an opportunity. What type of impact do you want to have? Right? When that person leaves, when that conversation's over, how do you want them to think about the experience? Okay? What sort of lasting impression do you want to make? Who do you want to be to them? Just another salesperson? Just someone out here, trying to get them to buy something? I don't want to be that person. I would hope you don't either. I would encourage you to be a person that, they were really impressed by. Wow, this was the most amazing sales conversation I've ever had. This person took a genuine interest in me, genuine interest in my business. They really legitimately wanted to help me, right? That is a whole lot different than the vast majority of every sales conversation they've ever had or they'll continue to have, right? So that will differentiate you immediately. Just that alone. By taking a genuine interest in them and again, switching your mind away from worrying about the sale or worrying about selling and focusing on actually trying to help people, will automatically have an impact on the conversations that you have with people and the way people perceive you, okay? So that's number two. We've got, number one, which is getting passionate about the value that your product brings or the way that you help people. And then number two is switching your mindset, right? Reshifting your focus, getting away from the focus on actually the selling side of things and getting focused on trying to help people. So how do we do that now, right? So let's talk about, we'll get out of the sort of theoretical side of things and let's talk about how this actually sounds, what types of things you actually do, and how to actually execute this. So when you're on a call with someone, the first and foremost, you don't always have to be, look, there are several different personality types within salespeople, right? Every salesperson is different, has a different personality type. So you don't have to be in this over-eager, pushy, hyper-excited, super high energy person. I will not tell you that you have to be that way because it's just not true. Some of the best salespeople I've ever met are very calm, frankly, far more calm than I am, right? But their process was fantastic. They genuinely cared about people, and the way they approached selling was far different, right? So you don't have to be this, when I say sell with conviction and passion, you don't have to be this overly energetic, high energy salesperson. And anyone who tells you that you need to, match the prospect's energy level and raise it by 10, or you need to come in there and just raise the energy and it's on you to raise the energy and get them hyped up and get them excited. I don't know that I agree with that. Now, I would agree that you can't be down and sad and disinterested, right? You can't be bringing the mood down, right? You can't be killing the vibe. But you don't have to be super high end either, right? So when I talk about the actual presentation part, when I talk about actually interacting with the prospect, first and foremost, and again, if you've gone through any of the Pitchless selling training, level 1, level 2 programs, most of the time, we spend is focused on the prospect, right? We're trying to learn as much as we can about the prospect so we know exactly how to approach our presentation. So when it comes to learning as much as you can about the prospect, again, that's a time where, it's really all about them. You're not getting any sort of presentation mode, right? It's not any sort of real selling. You're not even talking about yourself at all if you're doing it right. So where the conviction comes in is once you know as much as you can about them, and this is my point, you cannot be overly convicted or overly passionate that your product or service is going to change their life or change their business unless you know a bunch of information about them, right? Unless you know exactly how your product or service is going to help. And here's why I say that. And this goes back to the whole high energy thing. Oftentimes, salespeople come in and they believe that you just got to come in super fired up with all this energy and just get the prospect excited. And if you get them excited and you get them saying yes, they're going to buy because they can't help themselves, right? They don't know what to do but to buy because you get them so excited. It's not how it goes. And sure, sometimes, look, I am a high energy seller, generally speaking. I stay positive. I like to compliment people. I like to, get people in a good mood, right? I like to have a positive impact on your day. Those things are all great. But what happens sometimes is if you haven't done your job the right way, or you don't know enough about the prospect, or you don't really have a good, strong value proposition built up for what you're trying to sell them, it comes across as fake. It comes across as phony. And when people sniff that out, when prospects, and they always do, right? Prospects always know if you're being phony with them, right? And so if they sniff that out, not only, are they unhappy about it, but now they're even less likely to buy, right? Because they don't trust you, they don't like you, they don't believe you, that, they think you're just trying to sell something to them. So I don't know about you guys, but I'd like for you to think about a time when someone was trying to sell you something. You were a prospector, you were a buyer. Right? And think about the interaction you've had with salespeople, with other salespeople. I think about this all the time, obviously, because I've been in sales and I've trained salespeople. And so I'm always very mindful when I'm in those situations with people. Not that I'm judging necessarily, but, I'm judging a little bit. I'm critiquing. I'm thinking through the way they're approaching the sale. And so I don't know about you, but for me, when someone comes at me and they're just, super high energy, they obviously don't really care about me. They don't make an effort to try to learn what I want, what I'm looking for, what I need, how they can help, those types of things. And it's all just about like this fake passion and conviction without understanding me. Well, that turns me off. I don't really want to buy from them. And so, like I said, I am a high energy seller. I can get behind getting fired up. I mean, I can get into a flow. You know what I mean? If someone wants to get me fired up, and they do it the right way, boy, I get fired up, and I'll probably buy if they do it the right way. Heck, I love being sold, right? But as long as someone does it the right way. So with that said, is you don't have to be the high energy and all that stuff. What you have to do is you have to genuinely understand your prospect, so that way you can very confidently, right? You can sell with conviction. You can sell with passion. Why? It's not a false conviction. It's not false confidence. It's not fake it till you make it. No, you can do it because you know you're going to help them. Okay? Like, you know that your product or service is going to help. How do you know? Because you just spent all this time getting to know them, learning what they need, learning what they want. And you should know your product or your service well enough to know how that will then work in to what they're doing. Right? And so once that light bulb clicks for you, now you have a sense of confidence, right? You can sell with conviction. You can sell with passion. Why? It's because you know it's going to work. So I keep beating that dead horse. Let me give you this example, okay? Imagine there's you might have seen this movie, Back to the Future, right? In Back to the Future, there's this sports almanac that makes its way back in time, right? And the antagonist, right, the old bad guy, the bully in the story, has this sports almanac, and he's going to use it to make all this money betting on sports results, right? Because they've got this, he has this almanac, right? This book of the scores and outcomes of every game that happened, because this book was from the future and he's back in time. I'll give you another example, or I'll expand on that, right? Imagine if you had that almanac. You had that sports almanac. So you had a book from 2024, the year 2024, and it shows the scores and outcomes of every professional sporting event over the last 30 years, right? And now imagine if you went back in time to yourself 20 years ago in the past, right? And you said, look, I got this book. You can bet on any of these sporting events you want, and you're going to win. I know the results. I've got the results. They're right here. Like, get all your money, every dollar that you have right now, and any dollar, any amount of money you can get your hands on from anywhere else, and bet on these games. These are the outcomes, right? Think about how convicted you would be. Think about how passionate you would be trying to sell yourself to buy that sports almanac, right? You would not leave. You would not come back to modern day without selling that dang book, right? No matter how much it costs. Look, if old you, or young you, I guess in this case, was like, no, who are you? Who are you, weird person trying to say you're me from the future? Like, I don't know. I'm not. No thanks. I'm out. I'm way out. I'm not buying that book. Like, if you were the one selling it, and you'd come back the next day, right? You'd find yourself again the next day and the next day and the next day, and you would do whatever it took to get that sale made, because you know that if 20 years ago you starts betting on all these games, you're gonna be, hey, life is gonna look a little different for you, right? So that's the type of conviction I'm talking about, right? That's the time traveling billionaire. It's like, that your service or your product or whatever you're selling is going to help them without a doubt. It's going to change their life, and you know exactly how it's going to change their life, right? It can't be the false confidence. You can't be faking it. That if you haven't done your job, you haven't made that connection with them, it comes across wrong. It's pushy, it's fake, it's phony, salesy, right? You've heard that. But if you've done everything right, and again, this is what we talk about in the Pitchless Selling Program. This is just tidbits here. This is little bits and pieces in the podcast. But in the actual training program, we go through how to actually do this, how to do everything right from start to finish, the whole framework, the whole methodology, so you can get to the point where now you're selling with this premium level of confidence, this conviction, this passion that you're going to help people, you're going to change their lives, and you're going to change their businesses. And because you did everything right up until this point. So, what I'll leave you with today is, regardless of where you're at in your sales career, right? Doesn't matter what your skill level is right now. It doesn't matter how long you've been on the job for. This one skill, doing the things that I talked about today, will immediately make an impact on increasing your sales if you can genuinely find those ways to be passionate about the results that you're delivering, and get passionate about the people you're talking to. Get passionate about the prospects and their situations. Learn about people. Genuinely care about people. All right? So you start doing these things, I guarantee you see an immediate impact. All right? This podcast is a fun one. It's a topic that I love talking about. I can go on and on about this. In fact, there have been some times that I have gone on and on about this in different situations, but that's it for me for today. If you think that there's someone else that could benefit from today's podcast episode, I got the one favor to ask is if you'd share it with somebody. Just one person is fine. I don't need you to, again, share it with as many people as you want to, but if you can at least get it to one person, that would really, really help us. And not only would it help us, but again, you'd be helping somebody else. So if you can find someone else that you think could benefit from this podcast today, take 30 seconds and share it. That would be awesome. With that said, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I hope that it starts having an impact for you right away and you start using some of this stuff. And most of all, thanks a lot for being here. I really appreciate it, and look forward to seeing you on the next one. We'll talk to you soon.